Good evening, Internet. This is CFS Eurovision here, and this is it. The final weekend of national final season has come and gone. I know, very sad. But don't worry, there are more videos lined up for the next while before the channel switches focus. I'm not covering the main contest this year for reasons that are obvious to most of you, but there are still a few videos coming up. Let's focus on last weekend for now, and go through the shows across 5 countries that concluded national final season for 2026. We open in Romania, where what I can now fully describe as the other Selecția Națională took place, in TVR Studio 3 in Bucharest. Yes, a TV studio for a final. That's how much they care about their return. Also, on the 4th of March, a Wednesday. Yikes. The show was hosted by a total of 7 people, making it some sort of tribute act for modern-day comic relief telethons. They aren't even on all evening these days, for goodness sake. Why do you need so many hosts? Anyway, the hosts were, on main stage, Daniel Nuta and Julia Nahmani. Backstage, Alexandra Gavrila, Julian Celia, and Razvan Petra. No idea why there are more backstage hosts than regular hosts. And so-called public hosts, no idea what they do, didn't see the actual show. Laura Froniu and Marius Popa. The other thing that annoys me about this show is the winner was decided by 100% jury. Yep. Nearly 3 hours of show for no actual public vote. I feel like I already know what's going in this year's advice video. Right, results rundown time then for the 12 competing acts. 12th, Edward Meyer x Love Bay x Kosti with Everybody Needs Somebody, original title. Overall, it's forgettable. It's a nice song, but I feel like if this went to the main contest, it would be many people's song during which they just have a chat with whoever they're watching it with. It wouldn't factor in anyone's voting decision, let alone actually get votes. You lot agree because you've given it 1.5 stars on EurovisionWorld. Ouch. 11th, Vanu with Therapy Enemy. This one's a difficult one for me as chief overrater of rock entries and rock-adjacent entries. Especially seen as not even I liked this one. The song itself is okay, but it's completely destroyed by 2 factors. One, it was 3rd out of 12 in the running order, so nowhere near where an interval would be, so it's already less likely to be remembered. And 2, the acoustics in the arena were awful before song 5, and then they got slightly better. This meant that what was meant to feel like a traditional rock concert moment, which is how rock entries are often staged well, it turned into this airy space no bigger than a school assembly hall with an amateur sound system. But you ain't ready for the ball. Not great, and you agree, 2.3 stars on EurovisionWorld. 10th, Antonio Pican with Humans. I was interested when I first watched this because the staging is interesting with the very obviously low-budget cube suspended in the air, backing dancer on top, etc. But by the time it came to writing this script, which I kid you not was under half an hour later, I had forgotten all about it. The song itself wasn't that good, evidently, which is why the staging is the positive that I mentioned here. And again, you agree, 2.0 stars on EurovisionWorld. 9th, Iguana with Happy Birthday. This one is complicated, I think is the word I'd go with. The song relates to a troubled household where even happy occasions are stressful and argument-filled. And the staging incorporates a lot of elements of that. Too many elements, in my opinion. There's the barbed wire as if to indicate the trenches of war, the raggedy outfits, the table with the cake, and then there's also the dancing, which features elements where the dancer that appears to be emulating a child in the relationship is either choked, stretched apart between the 2 adults, or visually kind of replicating being strung up. It's too on the nose and it's overstaged. There's too much going on. Yes, I understand the theme. No, you don't need every possible indication of it on stage. 8th, Olivia Adams with Croco. High school pop, like something you'd find out of Hannah Montana, Victorious, all that kind of area/era of older kids' TV shows. She does need to work on enunciation for the riff to work. It's C-R-O-C-O, which would be catchy if I didn't hear T-I-O-C-O when listening to it. C-R-O-C-O. A lot to work on, I think. 7th, Monica Adagio with Fereastra Pentru un Orb, which means window for a blind man. First of all, points for singing in Romanian, because frankly there was too little of it in this show. Moldova had more Romanian than this by a country mile, and that's as a percentage, so you can't complain about Moldova's shows having more songs. However, this entry in particular, I was bored. The message wasn't getting through. The song sounds so similar to ballads we've seen and heard before time and time again at Eurovision. It doesn't work for me. 7th is about accurate. 6th, Eurovision 2022 representative Urs with All the Way. Look, I like Urs. I loved Yamame. I think it deserved the position that it ended up in, possibly even higher, Yamame. Hola mi bebe, etc., etc., etc. However, this is nowhere near as good as Yamame. The lyrics aren't great. La 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 la, let me feel you all the way. La 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 la, let me stay, and I love you all the way. La 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 la, let me feel you all the way. La 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 la, let me stay, and I love you all the way. The other thing I'm a bit concerned about here is that I feel this may have been appropriated for Romanian television. There's a lot of dancing that could be described as... Ooh, what word would I use? Not quite sexual, but sort of sex-y, if you know what I mean. Especially between him and a female backing dancer. And it feels very deliberate that that is the choice, despite the fact that Urs is known to be of unlabelled sexuality, as he describes it. In this way, it feels like the heteronormativity is forced when you know the singer has different preferences. And I say that as a straight man myself. 5th, Emily Alapay with Tilly Bomb, which is just a made-up noise by the looks of it. The song barely makes it past the 2-minute mark, let alone 3. 2 minutes 30, rather. Which is a problem with many songs in this selection, actually. The staging is decent, but I'm not sure how these sort of mummified beings fit in with such a poppy, upbeat song. The two concepts don't really work with each other. 4th, Robert Lukian with Fire to the Lies. There's nothing better than a dramatic ballad sung by someone who can really belt out a tune. There's nothing worse than one sung by someone who can't. This man verges heavily on the borderline here. Let the dragons come and stand my ground. He clearly has a certain level of vocal talent, and it's a positive that he's come here with a song that can showcase the full extent of it. However, he's very clearly struggling to do it. Those of you watching from Blue Sky might have seen my Strictly Come Dancing comments, and when someone does a rumba slightly off, I often say that the rumba is a difficult dance, but it's made worse when someone really makes it look difficult. This is the kind of line I feel applies here, but with the singing. 3rd, Alejandro Zandes and Emil Rengler with Bailando Solo, Spanish for dancing alone. The Romanian language has links to Spanish, so this isn't entirely a random language for a Romanian entry to be in. I'm actually very surprised this came as high as it did, because it suffered from the issue of being after the eventual winner in the running order, which can mean that the winner overshadows it. This is inventive, it's the most fun song in the contest, but its position in the running order, not only just after the winner, but last in the running order, makes it feel a bit more like an interval act. You don't really want shows like this closing the show, because of the tendency for the craziness to then resemble the interval acts that come after it. But clearly the effect wasn't there on this occasion, So congratulations on the high placement. Second, HVNDS with Door, which means yearning. Heavy rock adjacent song. The acoustics were fixed by this point. I've no idea what went wrong. But yeah, this was a solid atmosphere, would have been a solid choice. His voice is slightly grating though, and I can't help but feel that if I'd been listening for more than 3 minutes, I might have gotten more annoyed at that. But the jury chose the winner as Alexandra Capitanescu and her song Choke Me. Romania going through an emo phase at the moment, I see. The top two being heavy rock and metal adjacent songs, one male, one female. I preferred Alexandra and think she deserved to win overall. I think her voice is brilliant in the song, and I wish her good luck for the main contest. I will say that Romania gets credit where credit is due for having an agreeable result even when the public aren't involved with the decision making, so well done there at least. And now it's time for everyone's favourite tiny little country, San Marino! Yes, they host a national final. And it's huge for some reason. Where on earth did the money come from for this set? I've seen Esti Lowell sets be lower budget than this. Anyway, this is the Teatro Nuovo in Dogana, where Simona Ventura took us through this national final that was also 100% jury, though with the obvious caveat that San Marino has very little public to begin with. So it is possible that the jury is everyone who lives in San Marino. There were 21 acts, but in the interests of time, and indeed so as to prevent me reliving the most painful memories of this show, we will have a few honourable mentions like we did with Italy last week, before going into the top 5. Let's get into it. My first honourable mention goes to Clem with OK Respirar, or OK Breathe in English. There wasn't much time to breathe in the entry, it was pretty fast, and it would have benefited from being slower, as it failed to reach 3 minutes or even get close. Overall, it was an interesting song, partially in the Neapolitan dialect of Italian, sort of Bruno Mars-esque, a genre we don't really get to see often in Eurovision national selections. It didn't fully appeal to me. My honourable mentions will increase in my opinion of them as we go, but an okay start. Next we have the song that started the show, Pellegrina Pibigas with Il Giorno Che, meaning the day that. The day that... what? Anyway, female rock to start the show. Quality was decent. Fröken Snusk would have been proud of that outfit. Next, Edward Meyer. Yes, the second time he's been mentioned this video because he's turned up in 2 different selections. Interestingly, this time with William Imola and the song Baila, which means dance. And I was dancing along to this one. I actually feel like this one was better than the one he actually sent to his native Romania, which is a bit odd anyway, but I liked this one. And my final honourable mention goes to my personal favourite, which perhaps unpopularly and controversially is Lokestrachia with Cara Madre Mia, which means Dear My Mother. It's nice that we talk about songs referencing mothers during the week that Mother's Day is on in the UK, isn't it? Anyway, I just found myself dancing along with it again, so I thought, screw it, I'll put this first in my ranking. Now, let's take a look at some of your favourites that didn't make it into the top 5. Starting with Magdalena Tull with I'll Be Around. Magdalena Tull has been at the Eurovision Song Contest before. She represented Poland in 2011 with her song Jestem. She didn't qualify for the final. That famous Poland-San Marino link returns here as she attempts to go for San Marino. You lot seem to like it, but for me it's basic and generic. I actually put the second to last, so I'm sorry, but I disagree with you, Joe Public. You also liked Rosa Chemical with Mamami. Rosa Chemical has taken part in San Remo in Italy before, and I do like a lot of his stuff. I did put this in the top half of my ranking, and I didn't not like it. I just felt possibly it had more to give. But I can understand why this is popular. You liked Dolce Nera with My Love? Ah, yes. She with the grand piano wrapped in tinfoil. Presumably the production team wanted to use it for next year without having to clean it. This was one of the better ones in the Seen and Heard Before category. Her voice is a weird cross between Bonnie Tyler and Katie Melua. I was watching this back to jog my memory when reading the script, and I'd only just realised when writing this section that she's not actually sitting on a stool when in this position at the piano, which is quite impressive. Overall, not to my tastes, but again, I understand its popularity. And lastly, you also liked Orphy with Rise Again. Orphy of Czechia, because why not? There were weirder countries. That famous Eurovision powerhouse, the United Arab Emirates, was represented, but we won't talk about that. Unsure how that act even got out of there given current events, but anyway. Orphy of Czechia. I don't know what to say here, to be honest. It's a boring ballad. It's got a little bit more about it than a few of the other ballads, so it's not really that close to last in my ranking, but I still disagree with the public on this one. Right, let's look at that top 5 then. We didn't have a 5th place, just a joint 4th, so we'll start with Maya Azucena and My Sin. Now, I'll let you into a little secret here, which is that my 4 honourable mentions weren't necessarily my 4 favourites, and that is because this song was in my 4 favourites, but I knew I was talking about it in this section as it came top 5. Anyway, Maya is from famous Eurovision powerhouse, the United States of America. Yeah, I really don't know what's happening here anymore, but I congratulate her on being one of the, what must be about 5% of Americans that has successfully been able to locate San Marino. Well, for all we know, it might just be her and Flo Rida. More on him later. I love the song mainly because it gives me vibes similar to that of Snow Patrol, which is one of my favourite bands. The sort of upbeat, softer style of rock with harmonies, but of course this time sung by a woman. The other 4th was Inis Nezari with In My Head. In case you've watched some of my previous videos and are wondering why that name sounds familiar to you, she was runner-up in Albania's Festivali I Këngës this year, well, last year as that was back in December, with Takam Fal, which means I have given you. Anyway, in my head it sounds very authentically Albanian, which means power and drama are key elements here. Unfortunately, whilst it stood out among the ballads, a boring ballad is what it still was for me, so this one is undeserved. 3rd, Paolo Belli with Bellissima. This one shows how completely mad Eurovision National Final season has made me this year, because you lot rightfully gave it 2.2 stars on EurovisionWorld, and I can very clearly see why. But rather stupidly, I enjoyed it. I will say it isn't high on my ranking, but the choreography was fun, even if he looked a little lost most of the time, and someone should probably collect their grandfather from the stage at San Marino. But still, a bit of a laugh at a time when we really need it. 2nd, Kelly Joyce with Oh La La. Kelly Joyce is French, which made me initially wonder if she wasn't good enough to represent France, so she chose to try for San Marino. She didn't even get that, but yeah, this one was alright. It was quite French, which possibly negates its ability to do anything for the distinctly Italian nation of San Marino, but still a good song. I feel the need to clarify that no chickens were harmed in the making of this outfit. And finally, the act that won San Marino Song Contest was Senate. Yes, that Senate. The one that represented San Marino in 2011, 2020, and in particular with Flo Rida in 2021. Yes, that Flo Rida. No idea how Flo Rida ended up representing San Marino, but there's something even stranger than that going on here. I would quite like to see Senate's phone contacts, because I don't know how this has happened, but this time her song Superstar features Boy George of Culture Club fame. Yes, that Boy George. I don't know either. And it won. Boy George wasn't there, of course, probably doesn't know how to find San Marino. He appeared as a rather creepy-looking avatar on the LED screen in the back, though. His voice was heard, but the avatar didn't sing, which was even weirder. But now my question is, like with Flo Rida in 2021, will he turn up to the main contest? Will he not turn up to rehearsals and instead choose to judge a bikini contest that week like Flo Rida did? Who knows? Do many people care? It's everyone's favourite moment of the video. Brief interlude time. Yay! No, but on a serious note, please subscribe. It's the best way you can support this channel, and it's free with no catch. Just click that button underneath this video that says subscribe. Let's get back into the action. Right, here we go then. Time for Poland. Ugh. Final Krajowych Kwalifikacji 2026. I can't pronounce anything in Polish, so my apologies as we go through this. It was held in TVP Studio 5 in Warsaw by Artur Orczak. 8 songs competed, and it was allegedly 100% public voting. To be honest, I doubt that, given the way the results panned out, but also the level of genuine nothingness that was in the show. Let's just get this over with so we can move on to a better show. Results rundown time. 8th, Jaromir Sikorski with Cienie Przeszłości, Shadows of the Past. To give you an idea of just how far off my ranking is compared to the result, this was in the top half of mine. That's not to say it was any good. The high notes, though hit well, were incredibly grating and off-putting, but I at least commend him for giving something slightly different to the other entries. 7th, Anastasia with Wild Child. If you thought the difference between the last one in my ranking was bad, wait until you find out that this was actually my number 1. It's not massively interesting either, it's just much better produced than the others, and complete with the staging, looks like a proper Eurovision entry. You lot seem to agree with 4.6 stars on EurovisionWorld. Yeah, I don't know how this placed in the bottom 2. 6th, Karolina Szurowska with Nie bój się, Don't Be Afraid. This is just a standard ballad that doesn't go anywhere. I don't know in what universe this beats Anastasia, I have no idea. 5th, Stasiak Kukulski with This Too Shall Pass. This was my second favourite, so still the differences are huge. Overall, the quality of this one is great, but it's very To l'Univers by John Stiers, Switzerland 2021. So there's a bit of been there, done that about it. And that's even down to mannerisms as well as the song itself. 4th, Piotr Pragowski with Paravani Tango, Windbreaks Tango. I've often wondered what the worst song in any given year of national finals would be. This year, I think it's this. I'm all for the fun, jokey entries. My earliest Eurovision was 2013, when I fell in love with Koza Mostra's chaotic energy. But there has to be a certain standard, something different that it brings to the table. This is just awful. This is just a man wearing the opposite of a fat suit, basically a fake six-pack on top of an overweight real body, singing about beach dancing in front of suspiciously AI-generated looking seagull cartoons. He slightly looks as if Ange Postecoglou has ended up on Poland's national final stage accidentally after a drunken night out. I'm genuinely speechless as to how on earth this finished in the top half. It is dreadful. I'm moving on before I burst a blood vessel. 3rd, Basia Giewont with Zima Woda, Cold Water. This one's got a bit more to it than most other songs in the show. You lot have slightly overreacted, giving it 4.7 stars on EurovisionWorld. But I'll let you off because the quality of the other stuff is extremely low. A song that has a bit more to it, and the staging was really interesting. I'm not sure how any of it fits with a song called Cold Water, but at least it's at a certain level that is above a large amount of the rest of the competition. 2nd, Ola Antoniak with Don't You Try. This one is very samey, there's not a lot to it. The staging for something that I'd count as slightly more upbeat than a ballad is a bit too minimalistic for my liking. I'd like perhaps some dramatic backing dancers with this one rather than the LED screen and the singer doing all the work. But the winner of Final Krajowych Kwalifikacji 2026 was Eurovision 2020 Poland artist Alicia with Pray. I have to be honest, I enjoyed her 2020 song Empires and think it could have been a dark horse, particularly with the jury, had that contest gone ahead. This one for me is a big step backwards. Yes, it's not super generic, the staging is okay, and she has good stage presence. However, something just isn't clicking with this song for me at the moment. And if it was me making the semi-final decision, this would be gone without question. Sorry. So, now we come to the two shows that weren't effectively one-offs this week, and we start with our final weekly trip to Sweden's Melodifestivalen, where the final happened in Strawberry Arena in Stockholm. The system was 50% public voting and 50% international jury. Let's just get on with this results rundown because we covered these songs in previous videos. 12th, Saga Ludvigsson with Ain't Today. The Kristianstad heat in which it came through was probably among the weakest, so it's unsurprising that compared to the others this lost out. 11th, Eurovision 2017 representative Robin Bengtsson with Honey Honey. That final qualification place was useful then, wasn't it? Wouldn't want this vague attempt at country music to not make the final now, would we? That would be a complete disaster. Yeah, it didn't deserve any more than this. 10th, Sanna Nielsen with Waste Your Love. Undo My Sad was better. At least she doesn't quite look as much like the roast turkey reference I made last week. 9th, Mira Omar with Duset Daram. Her Azeri influences on full show, but this is a Swedish selection. Your 4.8 stars on EurovisionWorld are reflective of the quality, but not necessarily the identity of the song. 8th, Lila Alfaji with Delulu. Qualified through the last heat. A good joke entry, but there was another that was better. 7th, 18s with Iconic. This is why I keep telling people that Steps is not a good idea for Eurovision. The world has moved on. 6th, Kimberly with Eternity. To be honest, 6th is a little high for this in my opinion. This would not have done well in the main contest at all. 5th, Bronster City Slakers with Rakt in i Elden, which means right into the fire. It's a real shame that one of only 2 Swedish language songs in this final is the better of the 2 so-called joke entries. Even so, I loved this one, and if it won, I wouldn't have been mad at all. This is so fun, and I love that it came top 5. 4th, Smash Into Pieces with Hollow. Another one that I absolutely love. Smash Into Pieces are becoming one of my favourite repeating acts at Melfest, and this song was no exception. Aesthetically amazing, sounded great, and you rewarded it with 4.6 stars on EurovisionWorld. 3rd, Medina with Viva l'Amour. Another repeating act that I'm falling in love with every time they appear. It's very different from what Sweden usually sends, so I'm glad it got the appreciation it deserved. This one will definitely be going on my playlist. A somewhat surprising second, Gresula with Half of Me, or as I would put it, Gloria by Laura Branigan, sung by Somba. It's just been done before is the point, and no matter which voice goes on it, it's still the same song. I'm really not sure why it finished this high. Gresula is talented, there's no doubt about that, but this really isn't his finest product. But the winner was Felicia with My System. This one seemed obvious throughout. It was top of the odds the whole way through. No one really troubled it as the heats went on. And now we will get to see what would happen if Halo by Lumix and Pia Maria was sent by a more favoured country and with someone who can actually sing it. Lastly, we have the final of Portugal's Festival de Cancao. The hosts were the same with the exception of Filomena Cautela and Vasco Palmarin being there at the same time, whereas they hosted one semi-final each. The system is 50% public voting, and the other 50% comes from 7 international juries. So it's time for our final results rundown of national final season. Here we go. 10th, Evaya with Sprint. This was nice, but didn't really factor. It is slightly forgettable when among the rest of this list. 9th, Gonçalo Gomez with Doce Ilusão, Sweet Illusion. This is where I have to reiterate that my opinion is at odds with the public and juries of Portugal more than in any other national final. This song speaks to me on a level I'm not sure I truly recognise. I said last week I don't speak Portuguese, and yet I feel I understand what he's going through in the song. Underrated in my opinion. 8th, Marquise with Ruva, Rain. This is the one where everything about it feels more muted and understated than the aesthetic portrays. The guitar and drums don't feature a whole lot. It's weird, maybe that's the point, but it's not for me. 7th, Andrea Amaro with Dame a tua mão, Give Me Your Hand. This is another one where my personal opinion is at odds with that of those making the decisions in Portugal. Andrea is one of the 2 acts who have said yes to going to Eurovision, should they have won the selection, and it's clear how much he wants this. I like this, clearly Portugal doesn't as much. 6th, Silvana Perez with Nautem Theme, It Has No End. The outfit was created by someone who really doesn't like her. The song doesn't appeal to me, but I'm sure other people will like it. 5th, Sandrina with Disposto a Tudo, Willing to Do Anything. This one I do like because I fully understand the premise of the song, relating to influencer culture and how willing influencers are to do things that are perhaps nonsensical and detrimental to themselves at times in order to get the numbers that they want to see on the screen. The happy-go-lucky nature of the performance is a great visualizer of this concept. Fourth, João Ribeiro with Cancao do Querer, Song of the Desire. And it turns out you can't just send a song called Song of the Desire in order to make people desire it. Oh well, maybe next time, João. Honestly, can't think of much to say about the song. Parts of it sound like lift music to me. Third, Nunca Mates o Mandarim with Fumo, Smoke. Never kill the Mandarin. I still think that's the band name of the year. I like the song overall. It's a bit Snow Patrol-esque, but more obviously Portuguese. Good job. Second, Dinis Mota with Jurei, I Swore. This one is a nice little song. I can't help but feel it would be drowned out in the main contest, but he never needed to care about that because he declined to go, so for Festival de Cancao this is probably perfect. But the winner was Bandidos do Cante with Rosa, Rose, with 22 points out of a possible 24, including the 12 from the public. RTP are probably relieved that the winner was someone who said yes to going to Eurovision, because that really could have gotten very messy indeed. Remember, the only other act that said yes, Andre Amaro, came 7th out of 10. Not the most ringing endorsement from your own nation to go into the main contest with. Anyway, I'm not a massive fan of this song, but I appreciate that it'll have its own legion of fans. It did win the public vote after all. So, that is it for National Final Season 2026. I will be back in the coming weeks with a few more videos as we debrief ahead of a main contest that I won't be covering, but may well be crucial for how everything moves on given the current situation. My videos will still be focused on these national finals though for the next few weeks, and I hope you can join me in the coming weeks to debrief and perhaps look ahead to the next editions of them. This channel will undergo a bit of a rebrand in terms of content after that, but there'll be more on that in a future upload. For now, thank you so much for joining me through this national final season. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, share, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next, albeit slightly different, video. Goodbye.